So welcome everyone. My name is Rachel. I'm one of the board members of Insight World Aid, which is an organization that helps connect Buddhist Buddhist and meditation organizations with Buddhist communities in need around the world to provide humanitarian aid in the form of donated goods and volunteer services for vulnerable and marginalized individuals throughout the world. And we focus on projects like nutrition, medical care, shelter, fund, and providing direct funds and other resources to those at-risk communities. And so one of the projects we've been doing recently is these sessions once a month on a Sunday afternoon to highlight some of the projects that we've been involved in. Last month, we heard from Bhante Buddharakkhita in Uganda. And this month, we're welcoming Greg Scharf and Carol Wilson to talk about their work with Metta in Action in Burma. So many of you know Carol and Greg already, but just to reintroduce them briefly, Carol's been practicing insight meditation since 1971 and has been practicing in with the Upandita and Utejaniya styles for many years, spending time in Thailand as a monastic and teaching long retreats at IMS and Spirit Rock, and is a guiding teacher at IMS. Greg is also an IMS guiding teacher and has also spent time in Asia and is also really focused on supporting long retreats. And we're so lucky to have both of them share their love of the Dharma and their love for the people that they help in Burma. So Greg, I'm going to invite you to lead us in a short sit.
Okay, how's my volume? Everyone hear me? Thumbs up? Great. So yeah, we're just gonna have like maybe 5 minutes to gather together. I'll kind of get arrived here through some sitting meditation, standing if you prefer, reclining even if you prefer, and just I'm going to say a few words at the beginning here. So inviting ease into the body in whatever posture you're in. And just letting yourself feel into what it's like for you right now in this body and mind and heart, without any need to fix or work on anything, just being very simple and easeful, inviting ease into the body. If you want to let your attention run through the body briefly, just inviting it to find ease, to relax if that word works for you. Notice where your attention is just right now. Some part of this experience of body sitting, in the mind as it is. And for a moment now, just notice the quality of awareness, of mindfulness. And ask yourself the question, is there awareness? And just in the asking of that question, of course, we always would say yes to that, and get a sense of this is what it's like to be here, present in this way, knowing body sitting, standing, however it's disposed, and the mind, heart, it's just like this right now. There's nothing you need to do about it or change. And then just allowing from this place of ease and receiving the experience of body and mind, whatever approach you may like to use for meditation, or simply resting within the body, knowing that the body's sitting, connecting with the breath if you wish to. But mostly just allowing the attention to rest in this quality of awareness. And letting sounds, thoughts, sensations arise and pass. Nothing to latch on to or manipulate in any way. And it's something I just find it always so beautiful and inspiring when a group of people sits together in silence and in meditation. Just that we would make the choice to spend some time that way. You know, it's not a usual way to hang out with people, and it's so it really brings us together in a certain sense, in all our different, even though we're all in our homes in different places, and there's something fantastic about spending time with others that way, spending time in silence and yet so connected. So I'll start a little bit and say a little bit about, just a very little about how Metta in Action was started. And I'm going to ask Carol to chime in shortly, but could we have the first photo of Sayadaw U Indaka? we have a bunch of photos today.
That's
Rachel
nice.
made this one, which I think is
Oh,
beautiful.
good. Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Turn up my volume. So this is a photograph of Sayadaw U Indaka, who was instrumental in getting Metta in Action started. It was a teacher of mine during a period of time, but over a year when I was living as a monk. He's a disciple of Sayadaw U Janaka, or Chamye Sayadaw. And this picture was taken at the site of a new hospital that he's been raising money for to build for these 7 villages, one of which is his home village in an area in Burma that just got electricity last year for the very first time, electrical power. And so it's a very, very traditional countryside village area. And so we'll have some pictures from there. But Sayadaw U Indaka, there was a very bad hurricane. Hurricane Nargis hit a lot of the Burmese Delta and other areas around there, Bangladesh and other parts of Malaysia and Thailand in 2007. And Sayadaw managed to raise some funds to get some rice and cooking oil and other supplies and take it down to some of the harder hit areas. So Carol, you were there at the time of some of those first Metta in Action things. Do you want to say a little bit about it?
Well, that was the year after the cyclone, 2008, and thousands of people died, and they lost all ways to grow their rice because all the land got inundated with salt water, and the government wasn't allowing NGOs in to help, just to get a sense of the bad shape. So he organized a lot of different people to go down. I went with 3 of the others where we just were starting Metta in Action, but we were just on his tail. You know, we gave a little bit money, but we take a boat down and go to villages and give tons of rice, and oil is the main thing, and some other food. But the Dana principle is so strong in Burma that the villagers wouldn't be happy unless they could give something back. So they brought all these beautiful potted plants and stuff to put in the boat to bring back up to the monastery where we were staying, where U Indaka is the abbot, and he happens to love plants and stuff. So there's the sense of Dana is just so rich that we come away always feeling like we were the beneficiaries, you know, that we were lucky to be allowed to offer something. It's always felt like that within us. So that's how it started. Then we did a similar rice and Dana just for the local villages, people just right around the monastery. So that's where that part started.
Let's have another slide, the next slide, Rachel. So we want to show a few slides. So Metta in Action has kind of 3 main areas that we, so Metta in Action is 6 friends who all have a deep, long standing connection to practice and to the people in Myanmar, in Burma. And we wanted to, we just felt very moved to give back because of our sense of gratitude, and there's so much need there. So this photograph is a bridge across the Mu River, and that's the village of Taleba is on this side or the other side, I'm not sure.
It's on this side.
This side, so this is coming into the village. And so we'll talk a little bit about starting with some of the community projects.
Why don't you list the 3 projects, the 3 areas?
Community support, which is simple infrastructure things for places like this village, and some medical clinics and things like that. And then we have support for nuns and small nunneries. They get way less support than the monks in Burma. And support for schools. And most of the schools that we support are tied to the nunneries. It's, you know, if they get a little bit ahead, it's the Dana principle, as Carol was saying, they'll start a school. And there are many schools that have grown up since we've been doing this work in areas where there were not schools. The kids could not afford what it would take to have any supplies or a uniform or even travel to a school. And so there's a lot of kids going to school now who wouldn't have. Those are the 3 areas. And let's see the next, yeah. So In Taleba, the small village that I said, Sayadaw's home village that just got electrical power, this was, you can see the women carrying, and the young person there carrying water up from the river in big containers on their heads. I think we have a couple of pictures of that. People, there's the nun on the left is that Vera?
No, it's Aria.
That's Arianyani, who's she's not in robes anymore, but she was for about 22 or 24 years. And this is wintertime, so it's a little chilly. So carrying water up. So one of the projects we did was to create a pumping station in order to bring water up to places in the village, so that, especially for older people, they had a place where they could get water.
No, let me say something. It was for everybody, because everybody had to get water from the river.
Yeah.
And everybody has an ox in their yard, and they had to bring water for the ox from the river as well.
Yeah.
So the pumping stations are for everyone, Greg. They're for everyone.
I knew they were for everyone. Yeah, I may have missed.
Okay.
They're for everyone, but especially there's Carol showing.
Mimi, yeah.
So it goes into a big cistern, and then people can come and fill their containers there. And there's, how many are there? 2 or 3 or more around the village?
I think there's about 4, and then they built a couple more. I haven't been there since they built a couple more.
Yeah.
There's 4 or 6.
Yeah, so the water's pumped into the concrete thing that those taps are coming out of, will hold a large quantity of water, and then it's refilled.
Mhm.
So it's been a great thing for the folks. They don't have any running water in their homes.
And just to get a sense of Uindaka, this was his idea, and he figures out this stuff. He's totally into helping his village and helping poor people as well as teaching. So just to know, he thinks this up, figures out how to do it, and then comes to us or to other people for the money.
Yeah,
And
so
then
we
we're involved.
installed solar panels for some lighting. Support
You
for
go
the
ahead.
schools.
Yeah, go ahead.
So some of the schools, they now have some lights. So these are some kids in the school. And when we're there, we always visit the village. And one of the things we do that Sayadaw organizes is a meal for the kids. A lot of these kids, they don't get a lot of food, and they don't get a free, anyway, it's a special treat. And it looks like chazinjet.
It's that mushroom thing, they
yeah,
will. Yeah.
I like it. Carol doesn't care for it, but it's a treat. It's kind of a special meal here.
Okay, keep going.
And then the next slide, we got to move on. So these are some of the village elders. There's a young person there, and this is this the clinic?
That's outside.
Outside the clinic.
It looks too fancy for the clinic, but maybe it is. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, I think that's the clinic where we, and this is the clinic at the monastery, Sayadaw Uindaka's monastery near Rangoon. And so visiting dentists and doctors come in, donate their time, and you can see how many people are there. None of those people would ever see a doctor or a dentist if they didn't have this kind of situation.
It's like 1 day a week a doctor, 1 day a week a dentist, totally donating their time. And 200 people come on the day.
They'll show up and get looked at, and they wouldn't otherwise.
Yeah.
And this is a friend of ours, Dawato, and we wanted you to see, this is the way a lot of people live in these very simple, you'd call it a shack, bamboo houses, that they were all completely blown down during that cyclone that when we started, nothing was left of any of these kinds of buildings. And she cooks, donates her time to cook at the monastery, has for years. And we actually do support her in a small way.
We build little parts of her house, and then the next year another part's down. These walls, these platted walls last about 6 months.
Yeah, the walls they have to replace constantly. Okay, so that's just to give a sense of some of the community projects. Carol, why don't you talk about?
Say about the nuns. In some ways, even though we started by helping after Nargis, you could say the central thing that the 6 of us would most want to do is really support the nuns. And this also started after Nargis, because right in the area of Chammemyang, of Uindaka's monastery, which is where we all stay when we go, there's a lot, many, I couldn't tell you how many nunneries, 40, 50, some just 1 or 2 nuns, some with a lot. And many of them started right after Nargis. Some nuns would move up from the Delta because they couldn't live there anymore, and get a little piece of land and build a shack not much better than the one you just saw of Dawato's, and start their nunnery. So in 2008, 2009, we went around, there's no way we could support all the nunneries, but we went to some that we knew and picked some that looked like they really were somewhat together. So they would use the money well, but also needed help. So we started that with the nunnery. So that was our first thing. And there's still, this is a typical scene. You offer money in a very formal way like that. That we offer, they receive. It's always a photo, always a photo.
Always
And
chanting.
then, yeah, and then they'll chant like a metta chant, a gratitude chant. It's a very formal thing that goes on in the donation. So that's the typical
We
scene.
can have the next picture. I'm going to jump in just
Oh
briefly.
yeah, go, yeah.
So we this year we may not get to go, probably won't, but we always go around and visit and ascertain the need and give the money for specific things. So we visit every place where we offer.
And we make sure it was used well the year
make
before.
sure it's been used well. Go ahead, Carol.
No, you go. You're going to talk about.
Okay, go
That was
back.
Aria. Do the Aria. That's Aria.
that-
Now she's not in robes anymore.
That's the nun, the one who was the nun by the river. Now she's in lay clothes. And there's our plaque, Metta in action, with a few of our names and Dhamma Friends Worldwide. And I wanted to take this picture because we like our plaque to show up on toilets like these. And a lot of donors don't care to have their plaque on a toilet. They'd rather have it on some other kind of building. But Metta in Action is proud of our support of toilets.
These plaques have to happen. That's not to do with us, but that's one of the ways you give Donna, and then they put up a plaque.
Yeah, we can't stop.
Appreciate it.
We
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
stop that.
Yeah.
So the next slide. then.
Typical nunnery, huh? Eating. You can see the cooking over on the side. You can see their orange and pink robes hanging in the background. So this is pretty common until they have a good building together.
Yeah, they cook outside, very simple over fires.
Mhm, mhm.
Again, next slide, Rachel.
Oh, charming.
That's a kitchen.
Not uncommon.
Now, this place was under construction and they just had to do the best they could while the new building was being built, which I think shows up in one of the next slides.
And by the way, that could be years. They live in construction sites for years because they can only build the buildings as money comes in from all different places. It's unbelievable.
So they'll build the wall up 1 foot
Let's see
high and
where
then that's
this
all they
is.
can afford. And then the next
Yeah.
year it'll go a little higher.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure where that. This is a typical bathing. I mean, they actually have an enclosed bathing place, and that's already good, for them to come and take baths. And you can see they have running water, so that means they have a well and some kind of a pump. So that's already good. They wouldn't have had this when they first moved in.
Yeah, and we would have maybe offered the money for the well and the pump.
Mhm.
So they scoop the water out of that tank. Okay, so here's the construction zone. Is that where that really?
This is Nakwe, right?
Yeah, these are all Nikwe.
This is a group of nunneries that lived around a little pond. We really loved it, very quiet, out of the main way. We had to take a taxi, but a factory moved in next door, built a wall, and then it started flooding every year in the rainy season so that they would have like 2-3 feet of water on the floor of where they lived could be for a couple months at a time. The factory's like, who cares, tough luck. So they were living like that for a few years, and now the factory finally gave them some money and they moved just sideways a little bit out of the flood zone, and that's what this construction is right here.
And they usually have to build up so that they get above the flood level. They have to bring in fill. Let's see if there's one more here.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
so
same.
Another next.
This was last year, I think,
Yeah.
where they really started to have some buildings. Yeah.
And then there's
You
one
can see
more.
they always look smiling and lovely. It's so common. Oh,
So
yeah.
this is a more finished building in the background that was one of the earlier shots, so much more under construction. And these are the nuns ranging from very young, as you can see, to elderly people. So then more of the nuns. So the nuns go out on alms round, and they go in long lines. So you can see they're all carrying a bowl, and they go. They're told a certain area this is near Rangoon where they can go. It's regulated, and they walk around and hope that people give them either some rice or money. They handle money because they have no choice to buy food. And they go, is it twice a week, Carol?
They go twice a week. It's regulated by the government. They are not allowed to go every day like the monks. They're allowed to go twice a week.
Yeah.
And they go at they would leave at 5 in the morning walk all around the particular area they're supposed to go, and get back at 5 in the afternoon. And this is even the littlest ones.
Yeah.
And what they can get is rice and some veg and money.
Yeah, and they go,
Uncooked rice,
they have
uncooked
to
rice.
take the bus, an hour each way into wherever they're told to go. So, sometimes it's worth it, and sometimes it probably isn't much that
Yeah.
this is part of how they support
Yeah.
themselves.
They get other rice, from their home villages and stuff, but they all do this every week.
Another picture, yeah, so you see them everywhere. So
Yeah,
these two
little
young
ones.
ones have just come back and from alms round
Yeah.
or from school maybe.
I mean, the nuns are inspiring to us because they're, in their way, they have a lot of faith dedicated to the Dhamma. You'll see how they take on little kids when we get to the school, but they all do practice in their ways. But one of the main practices many of them do is, like, it's government. Can't get into it all. We don't have time, but it's politics of government, why they're limited. Lost my train of thought. Yeah, so they have a lot of the practice many of the nuns do is called Buddha Nupassana, remembering the qualities of the Buddha. It's a concentration, but a real faith-based practice. They have a lot of faith, which is very inspiring when you're around them.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, a lot of
Okay.
faith and a lot of love and devotion, and just steeped in generosity. If you give something, it just flows through and goes out, and that leads to the schools, which is the
Yeah.
next set of photos.
Yeah.
So many of these places, we've started supporting them, and then we go back and they've started a school. It's for the nuns and the kids in the neighborhood, so anyone can go. So
It's amazing. Go ahead.
I'll just say one thing about this photo. The hand holding a camera, I think, on the right side in the foreground is Da Virignani, who's been in Burma during the whole COVID pandemic because she couldn't get out, basically. And this is one of the nunneries that we support that started a school. And I think they had just taken in a huge...
Yeah, Chamewate.
Chamewate. They just had taken in a bunch of young nuns. Most of them are orphans, probably. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Carol.
a lot of them were from Shan State where there's fighting or orphan. They were building this big building. We've known them for years, and we love them. These two women on the right and the left, they're co-head nuns, very friendly. We were just starting to think all they're doing is building this big building, even though we love them. I don't know if we should give them more money. Then we came back and their building was finished, so they immediately went out and adopted 40 young girls. Then the next year we went and they'd had a school built with money from
Next
Japan.
picture, I think, is the school building.
Yeah. But it's all on Dana. They have to hire teachers. All these nuns that have schools, they hire regular teachers. They have to pay them a salary every month. This is all on Dana. They have to raise the money every month to pay for this.
Yeah. So this is the big green building is the school. And there was some major donors, and they built this nice school.
The Japanese do a lot.
Japanese donors, but they only made one toilet.
For like 40 kids and then other school kids, yeah.
So we offered some money for some toilets that are behind this building.
Yeah.
And I think there's one more picture at this. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They all work in the mornings.
They're cleaning the field there. Yeah. Nuns do a lot of work.
Yeah. Okay, this is at Zaloon, Carol.
Yeah. So this is another school that has been going for quite a few years. The lady at the head of the table, Doi Tengi, she just started this school on her own hook. And all of these schools that started, you can see it really rests on the energy and the togetherness of the head nun. And when she goes, I don't know what'll happen. So she started this school, the same as I said on Donna, 600 kids go every day to this school. It's a free school, and so we're giving her a bunch of money here, and we're saying that is to use it for, well, I don't know whether we're giving her the money for teachers. We say use it for teachers' salaries because Burmese people don't tend to give money for that. They give money for food or money for buildings, with the plaque. But something like salaries, not so much. Although there are some Burmese organizations, regular business organizations that have like a Kalyana Metta side, a Paramita side where they give to nuns. So
let's see
the
next
Dana
one,
principle strong. Keep going, yeah.
This is inside a classroom there.
Very formal way of, they all recite out loud. It's cacophony. I don't know how anybody learns anything.
And one more.
Yeah.
The nuns and the lay kids are all in the same class.
You can see the lay kids' uniforms, always green and white. They always do like that. We tell them to relax, but as soon as you take out the camera, they do that. No way around it.
And then,
Uh-huh.
okay,
Yeah.
somehow I stuck that one in.
Okay, keep going.
And this
This,
woman,
yeah.
this is Daw Yuzana, who's one of our very, very favorite friends.
Oh, I told him that. Can you come back later, please? Please,
And
thank you.
she's a very deep practitioner, teacher, meditation teacher, very, very deeply, highly realized practice. She started a school. It's a very, very good school.
Yeah,
And
really high level. Yeah.
high level of high quality. She pays her teachers as much as she can, more than most. She told us a couple of years ago, she was saying, because the nuns who go to her school live there. They live there too. Hers is it just for nuns?
No, but it's just for women, I think.
Just
It's
for
just
women.
girls.
And she was talking about how, by being able to come there, many of these girls are kept from basically being sold into sex slavery.
Or as wives in China.
Or as wives in
Yeah,
other parts of the world. There's one more here. This is an upper level classroom of hers. And this one, they're almost all nuns, but maybe,
They look like they're all nuns, yeah.
yeah. And these are probably the equivalent of seniors in high school, or
Mhm.
they're higher, the
Mhm.
higher grades there.
And this is a really good school, I think, as good as any government
It's
school.
very,
I don't
very
know how
good
much that's saying.
And
you
then
know.
there's one or two more. Okay, this
Oh,
is
yeah.
nap time. After, I just thought you'd like to see that they just sleep on wooden.
Yeah.
That's how they
They
sleep.
just at night they all would sleep in a row and just roll out their pads, and they just all sleep in a row at night and then roll it up again
But
in the
this is,
day.
probably after lunch at a school.
Yeah.
And then these are some kids at a school. They had a little downtime, so they're just kind of hanging out.
Hanging out, yeah. Yeah, it's Panyawati, I think.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So that's all the
Panyasinghi.
pictures we have, I think.
Yeah.
Thanks,
So
Rachel.
those are the main things we do. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So just give
And
you a
as
sense
Greg
of,
said, we go every year and check and see. And so lately we've actually pared down the number. We had up to 40 nunneries, and it was just getting to be too much. And we can only give a little to each, but we started to pare it down because they get from other places. And so we're a little more focused, but we still have almost 30 nunneries that we give to, and I think about 4 or 5 nun schools like that. Uh-huh.
yeah, I think actually schools is 7.
Mm. And there's been a few, like at Taleba, we support maybe 2 or 3 kids that have finished high school and are trying to go to university or what they call distance learning that don't have money. So we have a fund that we started that Uindica oversees that supports 2 or 3 kids, and we check in about that every year too.
Yeah, so we
Yeah,
have
that's
over the
about
year,
it.
a number of kids and we get to meet them, who've actually managed to go to some sort of get some sort of university degree, and some of them we see, where they're working,
Mhm.
giving back. Some
Yeah.
of them have gone into all kinds of fields, even into traditional medicine, or become doctors.
But anyway, just the sense, because we're working through a monastery and mostly with nuns, or even in the villages through the monks, the sense of dana and generosity is really strong. And the sense of that it's all in the Dhamma is very strong. That's definitely kind of a core of the whole thing. And part of the rituals you see is very much part of the Dhamma rituals in terms of the offering of the money and the chanting.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You have any questions or anything else we should say? Anything else you'd want to know about?
I think Rachel was maybe going to ask us a couple.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's really inspiring to hear about how deeply embedded the practice of generosity is in that culture. And I'd just be interested in hearing more about how, these teachers and practitioners' practice of metta and dana has affected you.
I don't know what you answer on it.
Well, this is something that I've heard you say, Carol, and I certainly is true for me, is that there's something I kind of get recharged in a lot of ways by spending time in Burma, and in this field of generosity, and people whose lives are dedicated to the Dhamma in all the ways it shows up there. But it's very it's just really it fills me with those energies, the energies of generosity, of Metta, of Karuna, of all the paramis.
Sila too.
And
I mean, not
Sila,
always. I mean, there's a bunch of hard stuff in Burma. Don't get us wrong.
Yeah.
And even within monasteries and nunneries, people are people. You know, one of the reasons we always have to go back and check. But the sense of appreciation of Sila and Dana, there's a kind of a, it's weird to say, but there's a kind of a purity that just what Greg says, it recharges us. And so, like I said, when we offer something, I can remember the one nun who started a school, you didn't see the picture. We always thought she was kind of depressive. We were supporting her every year. And then one year she came and was talking to Arya, who speaks fluent Burmese, and Vera is getting there, about how she wanted to start a school. And we always thought she was kind of depressive, and we're like, but okay, so we could give, I think we gave $3,000 to start it. Well, let's see what happens. When the next year she came back, she was radiant, she was shining. She had started this school, and there were already 150 young kids just from the neighborhood we were in. She was just down the road from us. And she said, I'm so tired, I work so hard, but this is all I want to do, just to be able to help the kids. And now my heart is happy and I'm at peace. And she's just done more and more and more and gotten more and more tired, but the same every year. But this sense of the joy they get, or as soon as there's space, they adopt 40 little girls without thinking about it. You know, it's really just action is so inspiring, and there's a real purity to that. And they say other ones say they want to train the young girls, they're nuns, that's how they live in the nunnery, train them so they can be good human beings, have a good life, know how to live well. If when they're 18, they don't want to be a nun, fine. They're not trying to make them be nuns for life, but they're trying to show them how to live a good life. So, you know, it's just really, that's just kind of taken for granted how it is there. So we get all inspired.
We all know all the problems in Burma, so this is not to gloss over that or ignore that. But we're very careful, and you know, unlike probably almost any other organization, we walk over there and check it out, and you know, it's all hand to hand in that way. So we're very careful about who we support and how what's happening.
Well, you know, until recently, it's changing a little in the government, but until recently, with the total military government, the Dana system was sort of like the secondary economic system. There is no safety net. There was nothing. So the nuns are taking on these little girls because they got nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
But they do it out of this total open-hearted love and generosity, not like, oh, we got to do that. So it was a necessary secondary economic thread, but it's done with so much love and generosity that it's really inspiring. So it's so really kind of rooted in the culture that way. Same with Nargis. Because the government wouldn't let in NGOs, all kinds of private people went down just to try and help, to bring food and stuff.
Yeah, and I think the sense of mutuality, the way things are done so naturally and openly is very inspiring. You know, the way things are offered and received. It's just very beautiful, and so it really does. We all find it so inspiring for our practice in a lot of ways.
I mean, we love to practice in Burma too. I mean, so we already have this strong connection. Yeah. You know, that's very strong for us. We both spend time practicing there at different places, and so there's a way that it already feeds us as soon as we get in the practice places or the pagodas or in the nunneries. Yeah. So do you have any questions?
Rachel, another one, or anybody else?
If not, oh yeah, Christine. You
need to get unmuted somehow.
Hi. Hi, Greg.
Hi.
Last time I saw you was in Burma.
It was, huh? Where?
Yeah.
I forgot.
You know, I'm wondering, I've been reading up a bit about, you know, with the COVID situation and just the abject poverty and, you know, of the people in Pinulwin and you know, down in near the Sayadaws monastery in Yangon and everywhere. Just like it sounds so catastrophic now, you know, with the COVID situation and everybody out of work and really not, I mean, just like not even having money to buy food. And how are you gonna deal with that as an organization? I mean, you know, it seems so overwhelming to me. Like, where do you even start to help? Are
Well,
you
we can,
doing
yeah.
something different from the way you've handled it, or are you going to just do your projects the way you've done so far?
Well, I think, we may find that there are things that we might need to shift. We assess things every year, but our projects are helping the poorest of the poor. And, it is bad. There was this one article we saw where the area where we base out of, there are a number of factories near there that make different things, clothing and a cigarette
Clothing
factory and
mostly,
other
yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And a lot of those, they've had to close. The people who work there are out of work. A lot of the women have had to turn to prostitution, and very dangerous. It's horrible. And, Virinyani hasn't been able to get out and see. She hears the nuns next door chanting,
Yeah.
they're still there. But it's really bad there. And, we're small scale, but, we're going to do what we can. And it looks hopeful
Yeah.
that we'll be able to get the money in
I
sometime.
mean, it's like anywhere. You can't do it all. It is overwhelming. But you know what? It was overwhelming. It's always been overwhelming there,
Yeah.
I have to tell you.
Yeah.
And it still is. So it kind of helps to just focus on what you can. We did just join a project that Aria, a friend of Aria's, is in Burma. We just sent a bunch of money that they were organizing a big food dana in some area of Yangon, nothing to do with the nuns. It was an extra thing, but we had money, so we sent money to that. So we'll see. You play it by ear.
Yeah, it was really great. We saw this video they made, and they had a truck with bags of rice and big jugs of cooking oil. Those are the two.
That's what they always give you.
Really essential. And people were all lined up and receiving this in a very, very poor neighborhood where it was a big deal for them to get this.
Mm-hmm. It is overwhelming.
We may find that we're doing
Totally
a bit more of that kind of thing. It's possible.
It's hard to say from here because
Yeah,
Vera can't even visit probably for another month or two. She
Yeah,
can't
she
even get out and visit.
can't
So we're
leave.
just
Can't
getting the
leave.
money together and figuring out how we're going to get it in. And we have some ways. And then she'll be able to give it out when the COVID lessens a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
There was a question in chat about the logistics of the nuns' support. Did you want to say something more about that?
What do you mean the logistics? Which I didn't see the question.
Oh, so the question says that the nuns go on alms round twice a week.
All right. Yeah.
And then the monks go more often.
Yeah.
If you could say more about the difference, and if there, you mentioned other sources of support, but that's not governmental specifically, is it?
Oh, the government doesn't support them at all. The government just makes the rule that the nuns can't go out every day because that might get in the way of the monks. You might as well know how it is. No, the government doesn't give any of them support. And they all have other ways, like they all have like different donors who come, like we're one of the other ways of support. And all the nunneries we know, they're families, most of the nuns that have any kind of family, the family, like if they're building a new building, you come, the brother will be the one doing the building or the cousin's staying there, the mother, the old decrepit mother moves in as soon as they have a place. So, they all go back to, like up in Sagaing, they go back to their home village once a year and get a bunch of rice. So there's all kinds of different ways. People come and visit. They all have their own particular supporters. That's what I meant by the secondary economy. It's nothing to do with the government.
And it's also from the local community and the sense of village. There is this cohesiveness. It's not so much in some places.
It's changing now.
It's changing, but a village will, if someone has come from that village, the whole village will, they might not individually offer very much, but the whole village will come together. And sometimes there are well-to-do donors. Often there'll be a well-to-do Burmese donor who can, give enough money for a building or for
it's just
whatever. So they have various sources, but they're just, they're getting by. It's day to day. In a lot of ways.
The poor ones we're talking about.
The very poor ones, and that's what we tend to focus on.
Another question that came.
What, supposed to end
we're supposed to end. I want to just include real quick another question that came in chat.
Okay.
Just pointing to the loosening of selfing that is exemplified by this level of generosity and the sense of that, that like you were talking about the village all being in it together. And so the questioner is wondering why this isn't taught more in the US, to make actions like this part of our spiritual practice.
It depends who's teaching and who you're listening to. There's lots of teachers. I mean, I have to say, the more I was practicing in Asia, the more I really understood Dana and Sila are, that's the path, you know, as part of it. I talk about it whenever I'm teaching. So it just depends. It's sure, when it first came over, everyone was into the meditation part, and the other part was not given as much energy. I think that's changing, but there's 10 million teachers now. It depends who you teach with. We talk about it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love to talk and teach about Dana and talk
Yeah.
on that subject.
Yeah.
Some
Not so
people,
much telling people what to do,
Yeah.
just the freeing aspect of the purifying the habits of heart mind, of generosity and sila. The whole path is about cultivating pure habits of mind and abandoning the kilesa. And so sila and dana are essential ways of doing this. It's not only meditation, but I mean, that's the whole Dhamma talk. But it's essential. But it depends, you know. The meditation in the West, especially with like middle class kind of white Westerners, kind of went off just on the meditation in the beginning. That was a long time ago. So trying to rectify.
Great, thank you. I'd like to start bringing us to a close, and to just mention that next month, so we're trying to make this a monthly series. First Sunday of January, Gil Fronsdal will be in conversation with Kim Gross-Moore, who's the executive director of a program called GRIP, Guiding Rage into Power, which is a very effective program for developing better emotional self-regulation, understanding sila better for people in prison for serious offenders who are in long-term prison sentences. So I hope to see a lot of you at that event as well. And Carol, I wonder if you'd take a moment to dedicate the merit.
First, I just want to say thanks everybody for taking the time to come and listen and caring about the Dhamma and caring about generosity in your hearts and in the world. Really beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you also.
And so, yeah, it's great to see you all. Those I know, those I don't know. Michelle, hi. So we'll just share the merit. And this is, again, it's an act of acknowledging the wholesomeness of turning our heart and mind towards the Dhamma, towards generosity. It's really important. The Buddha says when you reflect on your own generosity, reflect on your own sila, that these are wholesome actions that turn the heart and mind straight, that turn the heart and mind towards the Dhamma. That's not an ego trip. So sharing the merit, we begin by reflecting on our wholesome acts, and then as an act of connectedness and generosity to the world, we share the benefits of that wholesomeness rather than, okay, keep it for me so I can get to Tusita heaven, but let's share it with all beings. So that's what we're doing with sharing the merit. So let's just do this quick. Take a moment to just have eyes open or closed, but just take a breath and relax into a sense of presence with yourself. Just take a moment to center your attention here, however you're feeling in mind and body, but appreciating that we've been together for these 45 minutes from an intention of generosity, the intention of our heart and mind of compassion, of recognizing our interconnectedness with beings, the generosity and caring of wanting to be able to help in some way. And in all of that, turning our mind, our heart towards the Dhamma, towards reality, towards truth and compassion. These are really powerful mental actions that generate very wholesome, you could say, karmic results. It's called merit in the classical sense. So take a moment to appreciate your being here these 45 minutes, your giving attention and your caring, your generosity, just mental. Appreciate the goodness. And then feeling the goodness of all of us together is like an energy field over the Wi-Fi of generosity, compassion. And as Sayadaw U Pandita said, when we're tuning into Sila and Dana, we're actualizing our sense of oneness with others. Appreciating that. Feeling that wholesome energy. And then may this wholesome, beneficial energy be shared with all beings everywhere, without distinction, without exception. May our actions together, may our thoughts and intentions and speech together today, may the effects of that be for the benefit and well-being of all beings everywhere. May our actions of heart, mind, speech, and body, may it be a cause for the liberation of all beings from suffering and confusion. May all beings live with wisdom and compassion. Thank you. I don't have a bell, but thank you all.